Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Jack and Greg show with no name, but this will be the last episode with no name. Next episode, we will have a name.
We've drawn a line in the
And that's
sand. We can't go
beautiful.
on like this.
We can't. We can't. We started like, who cares? Let's just give it a shot. And now it's time. So welcome back to the final episode of the Jack and Greg show with no name. Today, we're going to be talking all about product showcases and video first product showcases specifically, why they can be useful for your business. We recently did one called Kapwing Direct, and now we have hopes to do them at least a couple times a year. We just wanted to talk today about our experience about it, why you should consider it, what they're useful for, and talk about video as the premier medium to showing off your product.
Yeah, definitely. And I think like it's a really sort of like, I guess there's a really common association with video and product marketing for like the standalone product release, right? Like lots of people create sort of the sizzle reel video for your sort of individual feature launch. I think that's kind of part of most people's playbooks. If not, definitely should be. But yeah, like the product showcase, and this is sort of like, this is our own term for this, right? So folks are sort of wondering, is this more marketing nomenclature that I should have been aware of? No, this is just sort of how we describe it. And I would say like my experience with like events that are like these, like events that are like product showcases, actually extends back to my time at Shopify. And for those who sort of don't know the story behind like Shopify Editions, so Shopify Editions is arguably kind of like Shopify's product showcase. It's sort of a product event. It was actually spawned from Toby Lutke, the founder and CEO of Shopify. It wasn't even a marketing first initiative. It came all the way from the CEO. Toby is a big time sort of gamer. He has been sort of his whole life. He infuses that in a lot of stuff that is done at Shopify, actually. And this idea, Editions, the idea came from the fact that a lot of the gaming companies out there seem to be way ahead of the curve, at least according to Toby's opinion, in terms of marketing their full platform, right? For anybody who plays games, Jack, I know you and I both do, like gaming companies they're awesome at this. Like there's a lot that other businesses can learn from how gaming companies have to market kind of like not just a standalone title. They have to market the whole platform. Because when you buy into, Nintendo or Sony, or you're choosing between the two, you're buying into the whole ecosystem, right? Maybe one game is what pulls you in, but you're making the decision based off of like the full suite of games, the game genres that they have, the standout games, which would probably be equivalent to like features for software. But yeah, anyway, that was kind of the backstory of like where did I first kind of run into a similar idea, or like where did I first run into like the concept of a product showcase was definitely Shopify. And yeah, like Jack said, recently we had, I think, a really, really excellent go at our sort of our own spin at this with Kapwing Direct. Definitely taking inspiration from some of those original sources, like definitely taking inspiration from the game companies and I think other industries that really do this like full product, full platform marketing really, really well. And we're definitely, we're going to break down sort of everything we kind of learned, why we did it, and why we think it's valuable for other brands to maybe at least consider it,
So here I have pulled up what we call Kapwing Direct, which is sort of a video first product showcase. This was we've been doing this actually for a couple years now, but this was our most, I think, sort of packaged and highly produced one. It was also our first live session. And this was the sort of main attraction from Kapwing Direct, which was a 10-minute video that sort of recapped everything that we had released that was AI related and recent, and just the things that we wanted to show off the most, because we sort of picked a theme for this one, which was just showing off all of our AI tools that could help namely businesses create video faster. And so you can see here a bunch of 10 minutes of me pretty much talking about all of our product improvements over the past 6 months or so. And yeah, I think this was a really fun sort of challenge, and also a really rewarding challenge. I really liked that we sort of ourselves also got to see everything that we've done and feel good about what we've put out there, but also having it, this like resource can now be something that we share for a long time. We can use this in, demos and sales pitches for companies who reach out over email. And it's sort of like an evergreen piece of content that we've made, that I am pretty proud of.
Yeah. I will
Yeah.
say, like, as a compliment to you, the 10 minutes, it goes by fast. It's a tight 10 minutes, which is great. Like, maybe, we can get into probably lessons learned at closer to the end, but I would say as a bit of a preview, like the first is that, like, we believe you actually want the pre-recorded video to feel very snappy, very sort of like
Yeah.
not dense, not overwhelming, but just like very compact with like a lot of action in it. And yeah, I think like something maybe to also mention up front is like what prompted this, like what led us to want to do a marketing event that wasn't just like a standalone feature. I know it might seem kind of like a 101 question, but I think given the number of companies that actually do stick pretty squarely with like one feature at a time, it's actually pretty cool or interesting to explore why. And I would actually start people off with kind of a really funny anecdote that I have kept saved in my Instapaper or Pocket, wherever, since probably a decade ago. And it's I'm not making fun, no slight intended, but it's actually a very old press release from the Microsoft Office team. And in the press release, they say actually outright, they recently did a major poll. This was, again, it's like over a decade ago, maybe more, with all of Microsoft Word's users, or a big portion of Microsoft Word's users, asking them, what do you want to see in Microsoft Word? And 90% of the responses they got back were features that were already in the product.
Wow.
Now, 90% is like, it's pretty eye-opening. I'm sure the team probably did a double take when those numbers finally came back in. But again, it's no slight to them. I think it actually is just a really potent example of like how hard it is to build awareness for features, even that you're like for customers that are actually actively using the product. Sometimes they don't know that they're there. And that, how do you get there? Well, if you want to build a lot of value for customers, you need to build a lot of features. So you ship them, you launch them, but then new customers come in. Lots of customers miss the initial like announcement. Some people just don't naturally discover the feature in their normal workflow, or they have such a consistent, precise workflow. They just never really get out of their comfort zone. Sometimes it's just purely discoverability. But anyway, it's not something that like any one team in the company is sort of like totally responsible for solving for. But, with the fellow marketers here in the room, like one way I think we can definitely help is to find moments to kind of bring back or sort of roll up many recent releases or many related releases all under sort of one umbrella, and sort of remind customers, hey, like not only did all of this stuff come out recently, in case you missed it, but also just like I think you did really well in the video, kind of showcasing like how these features actually work together to create value that's even greater than what they can do by themselves. So like you said, like one thing we kind of did with this direct was we had a really clear theme: accelerate with AI. And I think all of the assets, which we can get into, but all of the assets, the main video, the landing page, the messaging, it was all sort of tied around this idea of like AI can help your team move faster with video creation. And here's like all the heavy hitters that we released recently that fall under that umbrella. So that part of it, I think, you got to have clear eyes about how campaigns go. There are certainly some things we could have done better, which we'll talk about. But I think that part we pretty squarely nailed that. I was really happy with how that came out.
Yeah. Yeah, I was pretty happy with it too. I think I really enjoyed the live portion too, just actually knowing people were there watching. It was just sort of like always exciting to know that people are, sometimes when you post your content out there, it's like, all right, well, what's next? Like, you don't actually really think about what you've created. So just from a creation standpoint, I think it was exciting. But yeah, I think to your point too, yeah, like I think especially with a product like ours, right, where we're trying to, obviously it would be great if the state-of-the-art video editors were using our product, right? But like generally that's probably not necessarily the case. This is for like people who work at agencies or things like that who are trying to create a bunch of content really fast, but might not be, like officially trained in video. And so I think like what's interesting is that like a lot of people, we have so many resources. So, hearing like 90% of people might not even know that that we have what they are looking for, but like they also might not even know how to look it up or how to explain it or how to find these features. And so I think, having these like larger marketing moments where we can just invite people in and not be too technical with it and just be like, all right, today we're showing you how to use AI. Like everyone gets that. It's way more approachable, I think, than being like, here is how to add, B-roll to your videos. Like some people, like people making video who we want to attract to the product might not even know what B-roll is. And so, yeah, I think it's having these like larger events that we can market sort of less technically is really valuable as well.
For sure. Yeah, we certainly, I would say, have a lot of very strong like power users that maybe actually see themselves as marketers first. I actually think that's probably not too uncommon. A lot, again, like they view themselves as a marketer. They have more sort of goals set like as a marketer, but video is just like, I mean, as we talk about in previous episodes, like video is just going to be a natural part of their playbook. So yeah, I definitely think we definitely kept that in mind. Is like, who do we have showing up to this, right? If you're going to put on a show, which this is, like we use the word showcase like very deliberately. If you're going to put on a show, you really need to know who you want in the seats. And so that I think was like also a very critical part of this. I think for folks who haven't maybe checked out like all of Direct, it might be worth actually breaking down like what did Direct entail, or what might a product showcase like entail generally. As you saw from the two examples that we kind of highlighted, like Shopify editions, like Airbnbs, I believe they're called seasons. I may be having that wrong, but Airbnb has kind of a similar sort of like seasonal launch that they do. There is like a sort of landing page, which is, I mean, we like to think of it more as kind of like a kind of experience, a showcase. It's definitely like brass tacks though, is a landing page. So the landing page is more to be like I would say the more permanent artifact after your sort of live event happens, which brings me to the next two sort of elements of like a product showcase. You saw from us, we did a pre-recorded video. I do recommend doing like, the actual like walkthrough, the actual sort of like product explanations, product show-offs. I do recommend doing that pre-recorded, as you kind of mentioned, to help us keep it really snappy, really tight, avoid technical issues ahead of time. It's just really nice to have that checked off as you start this sort of major campaign. But one thing we did, or one thing we paired it with, was we actually broadcasted the video live. And we had a couple hundred registrants, couple hundred attendees. And so we played the video there live with our customers. And we also had sort of a live Q&A after the fact. So after people were able to see and check out 10 minutes of sort of like the product tour, the product updates, then they were able to talk with our CEO and head of product and product marketing manager directly, which I thought was awesome. A lot of people got to ask about things that they were excited about coming up. A lot of people got to ask like specific questions, like how could this work in this precise way for my use case, and get that answered, right by the founder and CEO, which is awesome. And true maybe to the previous example, we even got a few questions of people asking about features we did already have. We got a little bit validating of like, hey, we should do these, because even some of our own customers, weren't aware that we had like text to speech, for example. And they got those answered live and on the spot too. And then I think the last two components I would again kind of combine together was just like all of the content deliverables across editorial is one, and email, kind of like written content and blog posts, and then also like social. Like we definitely, for those of you out there, I think everyone who works with video seriously takes repurposing and content atomization seriously. Product showcases are just like incredible fodder for content that you can cross post, repurpose, atomize, rework across like every platform that you have a presence on, right? We sort of showed up across all of social. Julia, our founder CEO that I mentioned, she had a ton of assets to work with on her personal LinkedIn, where she spends a lot of time writing. So we just got a lot of mileage out of this one event. And it basically let us talk about our product all week long, and then some, in a way that people, didn't really find like, hopefully did not really sort of find like overbearing, because they know we're having this product event. They know there's a lot to talk about. And so it really, I think like it was a great content asset as well as like a product marketing initiative. So.
Yeah, completely. It definitely, I think, was important to get a lot of mileage out of it too, because I think a lot of other people on the team would probably say like, oh, that was like, we did it really quick and it was so easy. The video did take a lot of time and effort, so I was like glad to see also that we could push the video in so many places, because I feel like a lot of times, like I was saying earlier, sometimes you'll make a video and you post it on YouTube or whatever, and it gets 200 views or 300 views, right? And then it's over.
I hope for the best.
And then it's like, oh wow, I put like a whole week of work into that or something. And so I think like it's also validating to just use what you have and put it everywhere, I think. Yeah, and I think like every company needs to probably be doing that, and that's what we talked about a lot last episode as well, if you want to go back and listen. How companies can repurpose and atomize content in the easiest way possible using Kapwing. Just kidding. But not kidding.
But seriously, we have numbers to hit, people. Come on. No, yeah, you're exactly right. And again, I think the really nice thing for like the content team, because this is, if you work on a campaign like this, you're going to have product marketing and content sitting really, really close together. Like this is, I think, a duet between those two teams in a lot of cases. And something to consider from the content team's perspective, I know we have a lot of content marketers that follow along with us here, is like the context that you get, that the like bigger picture sort of narrative that you're naturally going to sort of come up with when you launch a campaign like this is so valuable. Now, when we were developing like Accelerate with AI, like we came up with a couple of different, I think sort of offshoots, or we came up with like the context of like, why does this matter now? Like what's happening in the space that makes this a meaningful theme? Like when we say Accelerate with AI, why would our customers actually care beyond the sort of like slogan? Like it sounds nice, but what does it actually mean? Unpack it. And I know for me personally, it really helped me get like a stronger sense of like how we should be talking about not only individual products, but just like, again, our AI sort of umbrella overall. And it's like it's a forcing function to do that, because you have to, you don't have to, I guess, suppose you could launch this without a theme, but we really feel like a theme really couches it really grounds the whole experience in terms of like, why does this matter right now? So if you pick a theme and you're selecting which features need to go under it, you're developing the messaging for why it matters and why customers should care. It's a great exercise. It forces you to really get sharp around what you want to say. So for content teams that struggle with like thought leadership, what better place to begin than to really have like strong kind of narratives for all of your sort of key features or a key sort of area where your product is growing. And this kind of campaign really, I think, helps with that. That being said, I will sort of say, as an abrupt segue, we didn't get everything right.
No,
I like,
no.
oh,
How could you?
yeah.
How could you?
I always like to stop myself when I feel like it's coming across too smooth, like we just nailed it all. No, I think now we should get into kind of like we obviously did a retro at the end of this campaign, talked about like what went well, what could have gone better. And so I think, Jack, maybe we can kind of do actually like a back and forth here of think some of the stuff we brought up.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I think first one, if you want to take us away around like the timing and how much time we gave ourselves, and yeah.
So it was definitely a quick turnaround at points. I mean, it's funny because when you're, coming up with it and it's like, oh, this will be a month or 6 weeks away, it feels like it's a long time to prepare, but somehow yet by the end it still feels like a race to the finish. We came up with this idea and we were like, yeah, we should do it, but we hadn't, we didn't come up with the theme right away. We sort of needed some time to do that, and then we didn't, because we were waiting on like the official date that we were going to do. We didn't like email everyone probably as frequently or as early as we could have. Also, the video, I feel like I probably could have used like a little more time. It was pretty much like, I mean, it had enough time for me to make some mistakes, which I did. I had to record the video 3 times. But yeah, I mean, it's just felt like a little bit of a race to the finish. And I feel like also we didn't quite, while we had like a fair number of people there, and I think they were pretty interactive audience members, which was nice. I feel like we had hoped also for even more. And I think promoting it earlier in different spaces, promoting more on email, maybe promoting in the product, maybe, having more time for that landing page to, land people, could have been also helpful. So I think like next time, instead of like starting the process, a month or 6 weeks ahead, 3 months ahead, at least, like getting the bar rolling, coming up with the theme, coming up with the date, and then, more is more, I think, with time for like these big events. So yeah.
Yeah, I would say I completely agree. I would say my like bullet point list for that, really only 2 things, but I think they're super important, is like, number 1, this is a iceberg project, which means like there can be a lot underneath the surface that you don't realize you need to do. There can be a lot of moving parts. It's also the kind of project that's like so exciting and so cool, and people have all this input that it's very easy for it to like inadvertently get bloated. Now, I think we did actually, like, I think a silver lining with like the time that we gave ourselves was like we kind of prevented that, at least. Because we didn't really have enough time for it to like swell up with all these other things we could have done. But I think there's like that's something you should consider with a campaign like this, is like a lot of moving parts, and be wary of bloat. And then I would say, the second one, like you mentioned, I maybe would just, if I were to like really oversimplify it or distill it, is like actually start marketing these events before you feel ready, like before you think you need to. You might look at it and sort of say, well, if you think you need a month before to get the results that you want out of it, do 6 weeks or 2 months before. Doesn't have to be at the same pace and intensity, but you can start teasing it like well before it actually starts, because people are busy, especially when you're selling to managers or just business customers. Generally, they got to make time for it. So the fact that hundreds of people showed up for almost an hour to talk about our product with us was amazing. But I think with more time, we may, like you said, we maybe could have even done better.
Another thing that I think, this one depends on who you ask. So
a debate.
Take that with a grain of salt. We had some critique afterward, which was that the video felt a little too quick. Like we were covering so much. And that, I mean, we were covering probably 10 different tools. Like it was a ton of information.
Hmm.
And because we didn't want it to be, you know, a 20-minute video, we were moving very fast.
Hmm.
And so we got some feedback that maybe next time spending longer um, on fewer tools might be helpful. I personally liked the pace. Um, I think it's a little fun when it seems like there's a lot that's new coming at you very quickly in a video. It feels very impressive. But I think I also hear that critique, and I think you can have a blend of both. Maybe giving a few really fast updates and then a longer update and switching off between that. And so I think
Hmm.
having just done one of these now, we have more just thought to work with on what the actual contents should look like.
Hmm.
And so yeah, that was a learning experience as well.
Yeah, and I think two comments I would make is, one, if I have a regret about the pace and the cadence of the video, it was more so around like running into those like slight, well actually it wasn't sort of like us broadly, but some of our attendees ran into some technical issues at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And I wish that maybe we would have had some sort of like buffer time between like the very first minutes when we started, to like make sure like
Mm-hmm.
everybody was able to see and hear
Right.
everything and they didn't miss any parts of the video. Naturally, like some people showed up late too, and when a video is really compact, they're gonna, if they miss 2 minutes, they've missed a lot, right? But
Yeah.
that's what the replays are for too. And I would say the other consideration, because we're obviously thinking about like our next one, is like the features that you're showing off. I think with AI, if I were to extend an olive branch or make a case for the video being a little bit faster and more compact, was that a lot of the features were like, they're smart features. They're one click in a lot of cases, or just a couple clicks to get something done. That's really the value, is that you don't have to sort of do so much to get a lot of value out of the product or out of the feature. Whereas if we were to go into, there's a ton of themes that I think folks can intuit, like what that would work for Kapwing. Maybe like we ever look at sort of like repurposing and remixing and atomization as like a theme in the future. We have a lot of cool tools coming up for that. That might warrant some explanation, because maybe we should walk people through like, not just what you can do with the tool, but different ways that you can sort of repurpose, like kind of give a broader context for it. Whereas I think the AI stuff, like again, a lot of the magic was like you're one and done. You don't really have to maybe have all those considerations.
Right.
But yeah,
I think also that gets to the point of what, like, going into the event knowing exactly what the mission is, what is the goal.
Yeah.
Because I think, yeah, to your point, like we could spend 10 minutes on the same video talking about repurposing and atomization as like a piece of like valuable learning content, of teaching people and a resource. Whereas I feel like for this one, the goal was more about introducing people to the tools rather than necessarily like teaching them how to use every single one, and just hoping that they would then find some of those other resources we have on how to use each tool. Or at least then, be interested enough to sign up for like a demo call where we can actually show them like the
Yep.
tools that they're interested in. And so, yeah, I think like having a very specific goal for each piece of content and for each event is important as well.
I agree. And I would say this was actually probably this was my probably number one like thing I would improve for next time. I also think, for folks who are not only running point on like the content, but who own the results, which is a lot of like smaller marketing teams, like the content team or the product marketing team might ultimately be responsible for like the impact of this campaign. I think I probably personally overestimated like the ability of a campaign like this to bring in sort of like net new customers. Whereas I think where we actually had the best sort of traction was current customers, rediscovering features, or people that we had. I think this is really key, and if folks can measure this well, I think I would have confidence that you could probably move the needle on this metric. But actually, like getting customers who were slipping away to re-engage with the
Yeah.
product. So folks who like, they haven't churned yet, but you can see that their activity had slowly started dipping down. Maybe they're removing seats. And then they show up to an event like this, and that one feature that they were just waiting on to sort of justify coming back to your product, or, you know, they did not realize that this really important use case that you can do, that you can actually do it. They sort of maybe overlooked it, or because they were logging in less, they missed that, right? I think like reactivations and like expanding customers' usage is probably a better goal for these campaigns, especially the smaller your company. I think the more potentially that should be the goal. I think big brands like, you know, potentially Shopify's at this level, can maybe expect like better, like they can maybe expect a campaign like this to go further. They have really excellent, you know, PR and paid and growth teams that can really spread the word of this event in the right channels. Whereas if you're doing it like us in under a couple of weeks with minimal budget, a lot of the marketing you're going to do is customer marketing. Right. So something to keep in mind is like, pick a goal. Maybe you're confident you could acquire new customers from it. I would say maybe default to like, let's see if we can get people re-engaged or reactivate or come back, basically. And then goal it on that and see how it goes, right? But I think picking something and really sticking to it is critical for a big campaign like this.
Yeah, completely. I think, yeah, we didn't see like tons of new people who we sort of didn't already know in the chat. But the people that were there seemed excited, and they also were like knowledgeable about the product that's in some way too, which was also valuable when they were asking questions too. So I think know, it's not a terrible thing either.
Nope.
Yeah, I think the other thing, maybe the last thing that was just like unexpected, was we actually had like no idea, at least I don't think we did, of like how many people would actually show up. It was, I'm sure we could have done a little research on that, but I think, you know, it's probably different for every company and how you market it and how far ahead you're marketing it, etc. And so, yeah, I think we were hoping, like we had more, I think, registrants than we had expected, but actually less people showing up than we had expected as well, which was interesting. I think
not by a huge,
not by a ton.
gap.
No.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think there was just like a lower rate of people actually showing up to the event live. And of course, like, you know, all of this content still lives somewhere. So it was very easy to, if you didn't show up, to still get this content sent directly to you over email, or you could just stumble upon it, you know, on YouTube or on the website or whatever. So like still getting those registrants is like really valuable. But I think, just like figuring out how many people we should actually expect was a learning process.
Yeah. And like you said, probably it's the baseline is probably going to be your company's baseline is probably going to be dependent on the product, how well you've engaged with people in the past. I think for us, like if we help folks set a ballpark, I think like maybe 50% of registrants dropped off, which again, given the time that we gave them from like first message from us about the event to like when we actually hosted it, I don't actually think that that's that bad. You know, these are sort of professionals. We should have given them more time in advance. And so to have like 50% of people who registered actually show up at some point seems pretty, like, at least something to work with. I think like we would see in the future, like, okay, what if we 10x the number of registrants? Do we stay at 50, or does like the actual drop off rate get worse? Or if we engage people way before, does it actually get better even with more registrants? You know, you have to do a couple of them, I think, to really get a pulse on like what to expect, you know?
Yeah, completely. Cool. Well, I think those were all of my, I don't know, hindsight shortcomings or challenges that we faced. I don't know about you, but overall, I still think it was very successful. It was something new to try for us. And I think we think it was successful enough to do it again. So I think that's a good, you know, a good sign, good starting place.
Oh yeah. And I think for, you know, for this show and those going forward, like we would like for people listening to avoid any scar tissue that we got. So when we talk about the stuff that doesn't work, it's not to beat up on our own campaign. It's just like, you know, isn't all the best advice. Like if I knew then what I know now.
Yeah.
So if anybody kind of looking at a campaign like this and considering it, you know, I think we focus on what we could have done better, you know, not only because we will be coming back to it, but because we want everybody listening to maybe avoid a few of the pitfalls that we ran into the first time. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, definitely love campaigns like this. I think, I definitely think marketing should really take seriously marketing the full platform. I definitely think we should all, you know, not lose too much sleep, but lose a little bit of sleep about 90% of our customers not knowing about features we already have.
Yeah.
And figuring out ways, whether it's a product showcase or something else, that marketing can help get that number down to the bare minimum, you know?
Yeah, completely. So give it a try. Let us know how it goes. We'll be here. We're interested. But yeah, I think that's about it for this week. Thanks for tagging along with our show. This again will be the last week without a name. So next week
And the
we'll
last
re-debut.
the last week that I record in the evening without a second light. So I will be luminescent next time. Can't wait
Yeah,
for y'all to see it.
I can't wait either. All right, well, thanks for watching, and we will see you guys next week.
All right.
Later.
See ya.